And now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome 4 generations of the Hallman George family.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines!
I am standing with 4-time Indy 500 winner A.J. Foyt, who's about to signal this field to roll. A.J., you've been coming here 61 years. How special is this day to you?
Well, this is very special because I didn't think I'd ever be here, so it makes it that much more special. But all in all, if it wouldn't have been for the Indy 500, you wouldn't know A.J. Foyt. Like I say, God bless the fans going home tonight and also the drivers.
Nothing epitomizes this place or this race more than this man, A.J. Foyt. Okay, my friend, it is time to signal the field for the 100th running of the Indianapolis 500 to begin to roll. Okay, send them off, A.J.
So 3 parade and 1 pace lap before the start of the Indianapolis 500. One car not getting away from the grid. It is Helio Castroneves, who has not moved as of yet. Now he's rolling away and he'll resume his place on the grid. At the head of the grid is the Honda 2-seat INDYCAR driven by Mario Andretti. You can enter at racewithhonda.com for a chance to start a Verizon INDYCAR Series race in that car with Mario. And look who's aboard with Mario today, 6-time Grammy Award winner, Lady Gaga. So 100 cameras for the 100th running of the Indianapolis 500, a dozen of them on board these race cars. Graham Rahal carries our Steak and Shake on board. Here's former winner Tony Kanaan with the NTDTT data on board. Last year's winner Juan Pablo Montoya with the Verizon on board. Marco Andretti has our Mutual of Omaha camera today. Rick?
Well, 50 years ago today, the headline in the Indianapolis Star read, "Can they catch Andretti?" Talking, of course, about Mario. Well, today, it's his grandson, Marco, who's going for that victory. And think about this. Marco has led more laps here at this track than any other active driver who doesn't have a win. And he's hoping that late in this race today, once again, they can be asking that question, can they catch Andretti?
All right, Rick, Scott Dixon has our Firestone on board. And if you look where Dixon is in the starting field, here's a group that you can watch to come toward the front.
If Dixon, Kanaan, and Montoya work together, expect this group of winners to get to the front really quickly.
And I'm watching J.R. Hildebrand. Remember, he had this race won in 2011 before he hit the turn 4 wall, and he told me he has a car to win today.
Just saw A.J. Foyt. Takuma Sato drives one of the A.J. Foyt racing entries today. He's got our Honda on board. And as you look at our Firestone track facts for the day, Sato and the other drivers will have to negotiate these 4 corners, 200 laps around to get to the 500-mile distance. And those weather conditions can make their cars handling very tricky to follow through the day. Jan?
Yes, they can. And that last line, track temperature 112, that's what the teams today will be watching very carefully. Why? Well, the hotter the track gets, the more these cars slide around. And it's projected to be up to 120. If it gets to 120, these cars can be almost evil to drive in the corners. So choosing a setting for the heat could be determining who's going to drink the milk.
All right, Jan, thanks. Helio Castroneves now has resumed his place on the grid. He carries our Chevy on board today, trying to join that club of 4-time winners.
Well, he is so fast, and he's obviously a fan favorite. He said that his car has struggled in qualifying speed, thinks he has a great race car today. We'll watch and see.
His teammate Simon Pagenaud has our Chevy on board, going for a 4th consecutive win in the Verizon IndyCar Series.
And remember, he was one of the fastest cars last year, the tail end of the race, before he made a mistake and clipped the car in front of him and broke the wing. So he had to go back to the pack and come back and finish up in 10th.
Will Power carries a Verizon on board, one of 4 Team Penske entries in this field. Last year's runner-up. Speaking of Roger Penske, the captain given the honor of driving the pace car for the 100th Indianapolis 500-mile race.
I could not think of a better man to drive that pace car. I've always believed that Roger Penske is America's Enzo Ferrari. They both started off their careers as race car drivers, but they had to hang up their helmet, and we all know how that went for him.
Roger driving the 2017 Chevrolet Camaro. For more information on the 6th generation Camaro, go to Chevy.com/Camaro. Ryan Hunter-Reay, winner 2 years ago, starting on the outside of the front row with the Auto Nation on board. In fact, we have cameras with all 3 front row starters. Joseph Newgarden has our Firestone on board from the middle of row number 1. And the pole sitter for today's race, carrying our Lucas Oil on board, is James Hinchcliffe.
Folks, it's important to remember that it was just over a year ago that James Hinchcliffe could, and quite honestly maybe should, have lost his life from injuries suffered in a practice crash here at Indianapolis. He remarkably won that battle to survive, and a few days later watched the race from a hospital bed just 4 miles away. Today he is back, again trying to beat the odds as he attempts to win the greatest race on earth. This is the ultimate near tragedy to triumph story. And yes, a win today would write the final chapter to one of the most remarkable comebacks in motorsports history. Alan?
Well said, Doc. If you would like to ride with Hinch or any of those drivers carrying onboard cameras today, in addition to the ABC telecast, log on to Watch ESPN and see all 12 of the onboard camera streams, brought to you by Verizon. If you're looking for Spanish language commentary today, activate the SAP button on your television, presented by ESPN Deportes. So the crowd, the people, the terrifying turn 1, a driver's thoughts at this moment.
You just notice the crowd that's there, because all month you've been here practicing, and it's a great big grandstand of people all the time, but it's dark and gray throughout the month. Now there's warmth, color, and movement. As a driver, you certainly notice that, but getting through turn 1 is always the big thing out.
Pit road, Rick.
It's Buddy Lazier. He was complaining at the very beginning he's got a stuck throttle. They're trying to figure out if they can get it fixed, but right now, as you can see, he may miss the start of this race.
The 1996 winner on pit road as the field has gotten the 1 to go signal. They begin to form up the 11 rows of 3. A sold-out Indianapolis Motor Speedway. They stopped selling tickets even to the infield. So many people wanted to be here to witness the 100th Indianapolis 500. They're coming to the start. We hope you enjoy. Hunter Ray inside Hinchcliffe for the lead in turn 3.
And it starts. Scott, here we go.
Boy, aggressive on the first lap. It's amazing what the drivers are doing. We even saw cars right down to the white line, almost on the grass.
With an almost picture-perfect start. What a great way to start the 100th.
Now for second place, Newgarden looks to the outside. Instead, he might give up a spot. Townsend Bell below him.
Townsend is really aggressive. Passing cars into 2 is not something you would normally do on the second lap.
With as excited as everybody has been here this month and all amped up for the 100th running, the electric atmosphere in the garage is like I've never felt it before. Everybody wants to be up front here and lead at some point in time.
Alex Tagliani had a close call a minute ago, 35.
Oh, just touching the car in front, and the 35 car of Tagliani. Boy, that's very lucky. I always say, Eddie, when something happens like that and you save it, it's time to go buy a lottery ticket.
Amazingly quick hands. Did you see how he corrected right up to the wall? It didn't even hit it.
Yeah, and that's at 200 miles an hour.
So Hinch drafted back by Hunter Ray for the lead. So James Hinchcliffe back out in front.
I expect to see a lot of that. It's going to be very difficult to hold the lead today. These cars are all so close.
Not only are they close, but the aerodynamic draft, and back to those hot weather conditions John was talking about, the amount of downforce as Hunter Ray looks back for the lead that they're having to run makes holding the lead difficult, and it's going to make decisions for these drivers late in the race on where to position yourself really tricky.
Absolutely. What's happening is, as you said, with more downforce, they punch a bigger hole in the air. So when you're behind a car like that, you feel like you have 20, 30 horsepower more than the car in front of you. You can see how he closes the gap here.
You heard a breathe of the throttle there with Joseph Newgarden. Went down a gear. Drivers will be shifting a lot up in the 4th, 5th, and 6th gear ratios throughout this race.
Top 3 cars right now are Hondas.
2 manufacturers in the Verizon IndyCar Series, Honda and Chevrolet. Chevrolet has had the upper hand for much of this season. Honda has appeared to have the upper hand for much of this month of May here at Indianapolis.
You know what I've noticed, guys? When you start to focus back, as we saw in that long shot just a moment ago, the first 4, 5, 6 cars are easily coming off the turns. The cars back there are using up more road at the end and getting very close to the wall. Everybody said, as Hinchcliffe now goes for the lead, that if you're up front, the aerodynamics in these cars are very favorable. The further back you are in the pack, it's more difficult to drive.
But the problem with being in the front is that you're burning a lot more fuel. So if you stay up there for a long time throughout one fuel run, you'll have to come in earlier than a car that's running behind you. It's not very efficient to stay out in front. Townsend Bell continues to look really strong in his Honda.
So 3 times in the last 5 years, we've had a crash in the opening 4 laps. Had a crash on lap 1 in 2 of the last 3 years. So far, we are staying green as Hunter Ray goes back on Hinch for the lead.
We saw this last year. We call it confrontational passing because of the aerodynamics in these cars. It takes a long time to get caught up to the car in front of you, and by the time you catch the draft and are able to pass the car going into the turn, then you have a chance to get up beside. You can see right now James Hinchcliffe doing a little bit, I want to call it blocking, Eddie, because he went down and reserved the inside line early. Doesn't look like his car is up to speed easily for him. It looks like he really has to push it.
You are allowed to change your line once and defend, but you're not allowed to move in reaction to the overtaking competitor. Stewards will be keeping a close eye on that throughout this Indianapolis 500-mile race. We're just underway. A good, clean start in the makings of an exciting race already unfolding at the 100th Indianapolis 500. My, how things have changed in 100 years here at the Indianapolis 500. Here is the start of the first race, 1911. Notice the riding mechanics and the cloud of dust. Now today's rockets of race cars speeding off into turn 1.
Makes me try to imagine what is it going to be like 100 years from now.
Good luck with that. Because if you asked people 100 years ago, could they be driving 200 miles an hour in Indianapolis 100 years from now, they'd have said, no way. And it took a lot less than that, right?
That was my point.
Yeah. So as you saw in our ABC side-by-side coverage, 2 drivers, Hinchcliffe and Hunter Ray, swapping the lead back and forth between them now 9 times on the day. Let's talk about drivers moving forward and some who appear to be struggling in the early going. Jan?
Yeah, so you can see he started 18th is Tony Kanaan, now charging up behind Mikhail Aleshin. Kanaan is running a little more downforce than some of the others. His team is predicting that number we spoke about, track temperature, is now 114. They're expecting if it gets to 120, they will have a car with more downforce that'll work. The Hondas that are leading up front, I think, might be in trouble when it gets hotter, but Tony Kanaan definitely on the move and likes that extra downforce.
I suspect that Kanaan is going to be extra careful getting by Mikhail Aleshin because he doesn't have that much experience here at Indy, but he's been phenomenally quick.
Mikhail's been just outstanding, especially we saw him in qualify sliding the car, but when Jan's talking about the downforce that Tony Kanaan is referring to that's on his car, that means the wings have a little bit more angle on them, as we see Ryan Hunter-Reay again slicing underneath James Hinchcliffe for a turn going into turn 1. But that downforce allows you to get through the cars and follow in traffic a little bit easier, but his car won't be that fast going down the straight. Watch for them to make some changes in pit stops to sort of lighten up the downforce load.
They're playing really nice, and by doing that, they're helping each other. As you can tell, Townsend Bell has not really managed to get that close, so it's been an exchange between these two.
So we talked about Kanaan moving forward since the start, dropping some positions since the start. A guy who contended for the win last year and the winner of the last 3 consecutive races in the Verizon IndyCar Series, Simon Pagenaud. Rick?
Yeah, Simon at the start actually went back to about 12th. He has now managed to work his way up to the point where he's back in the top 8. 8 is where he started. Now on carb day, he was complaining he just didn't have enough speed out of the car. They were making some adjustments, trying to figure out how to get that speed back into it. So far, he's been saying he's got some mild understeer when he goes to the middle of the turn, but as you can see, it's starting to come to him, and he now is starting to slice back up through the pack, getting back to his starting position.
You know, Alan, when we're talking about the understeer that we're having him, watch his steering wheel. He's actually moving it a little bit more than you want. His right hand's probably a little bit higher. He's going to turn around now and start to get a bit of a draft on Tony Kanaan on the inside. So he's now on the preferred line, moving into the turn, but never count Tony out. Tony early in the race smartly backs off and lets Simon go. But Simon has the ability to make some changes on his car inside the cockpit. He can change what they call the weight jacker and also the anti-roll bars. He will tune his car. That's maybe why he's moving up forward, but watch for them to make some changes during pit stops to improve the handling.
What's really important about what we just saw, Tony was on a tear from the back of the field where he qualified, and I don't think he expected somebody to come by him as easily as Simon Pagenaud did.
So as Hinchcliffe runs up on Hunter-Reay in the draft, this came over Hunter-Reay's radio a lap ago.
Call you if you're leading. Let's go to wheel 4. Wheel 4.
Yeah, we don't want to fall back to third, though. Seems like third's kind of stuck right now.
At 10-4, I like what you're doing with Hinch. I'm not bothered by that. But if he's not going to pass you anymore, wheel 4.
And that's exactly what we said.
So the wheel 4, they have various settings on the steering wheel of the car. The steering wheels of these things are definitely something out of the space age. A dozen buttons on the steering wheel, including the paddle levers to shift the car up and down without using a clutch. It's all automatic. Those weight jackers that Scott was talking about to move some of the roll center of the car. A drink bottle button, a button to put it into neutral, a button to put it into reverse if you need, and then the fuel mapping buttons.
And that's exactly what he was referring to. Position number 4, so probably turning it to 4, running a little bit less fuel, try to make some fuel mileage. Hopefully he gets to stay out one more lap. But what they're trying to do is just try to understand their fuel mileage right now as they're running up front and drafting. Doc, you have more?
Scotty, you're absolutely right. Ray Goslin, who you heard on the radio a moment ago talking to Ryan Hunter-Reay, said if we go to that fuel, we can save a lap and a half, maybe 2 laps. Remember, the parade laps and the pace lap bring their mileage down to a pit stop around lap 26 or 27. I'd like to go to 28, 29, or maybe 30 on the first hit. That's why right now Ryan Hunter-Reay is in position 4 trying to save fuel.
So Hunter-Reay, Doc, running second behind James Hinchcliffe. They're the only 2 drivers that have led. They've traded the lead 12 times already in these opening 20 laps. Just underway in the Indianapolis 500-mile race. We've just completed 50 of the 500 miles. Saying better than 350,000 people expected today. I don't see any empty seats or any empty places in that infield, except on the fairways of the golf course. So now that we've gone beyond lap 20, the tire degradation in a car's handling beginning to come into play as the fuel load burns off. So the running order starts to shuffle up front for the first time. Joseph Newgarden goes to second place. Jan, what should we expect for pit stop sequences today?
Well, what we're going to see is the first indicator. Remember, there is a battle between Honda and Chevrolet. We do not yet know in Speedway trim who can go farther on fuel. Simon Pagenaud, you can see in a position here where he's saving fuel by being in the draft. From lap 28 to 31 is the approximate window. If someone stops in 28, means they're burning a lot of fuel going for it. If they go all the way to 31, that's somebody like Simon Pagenaud that might be back there saving fuel. Again, we do not know. Townsend Bell ahead there, that's a Honda. Behind is a Chevrolet. Time will tell to see who has the better fuel mileage for the 100th running.
Now, saving fuel is not just about the mapping that you have on your steering wheel. What you have to do is you have to time when you come off the throttle at the right place, Scott, so that you can coast and let that car in front of you drag you along, because they're punching such a big hole in the air. And that is not an easy thing to do when you're maybe 6-7 feet behind a car.
I've always said this is so tough to drive at this racetrack because you're multitasking. You're going into turn one at 230 miles an hour. You're trying to get down to what they call the apex, say a foot square patch on the track that you're trying to get that left front wheel to go to, because that's where it needs to be for you to be able to get through the turn very quickly, as we see these guys doing this right now. They're also looking up ahead of you and maybe dealing with the car that's in front of you, the dirty air, that car that produces that dirty air in front of you, and also you're watching your mirrors and listening to the spotters, those the teammates that are actually up on the top of the grandstands letting you know exactly where the car is behind you. So a lot of work inside that cockpit. Now we're hearing on the radio with someone that pit this time. It'll be interesting to see maybe even if it's James, because it looked like his car was struggling there for a little while.
It'll be the leader, Hunter Ray, and Hinchcliffe.
And they were the two cars that led the most laps.
60 miles an hour from, 200 miles an hour onto the pit lane. And they come down toward Dr. Jerry Punch.
Being very deliberate and very careful. There will not be any changes on the Ryan Hunter Ray car. They were a little concerned about fuel after leading. He burned more fuel. That's why they're pitting a little bit early. Further up pit road, pole sitter James Hinchcliffe. They will make a small air pressure change in the rear because he was developing an understeer. Hunter Ray is away. Hinchcliffe still sitting there, waiting, trying to get the left sides on. Fuel. Oh, a lengthy pit stop for James Hinchcliffe, first time on pit road.
We didn't see the beginning part of that pit stop, but I believe there might have been a problem getting that fuel probe plugged into the side of the car to start the fuel. Wow.
That's going to cost him a lot of track time.
It's about 4 seconds long, and at these speeds, that's almost a straightaway. Here's Kanaan.
And Tony Kanaan has been complaining also of understeer, so watch the front of the car. They've changed the tire pressures. They're going to go and they're going to add some front wing, and they go for a half. That's not a lot. 9.1 actually. Good stop for Kanaan. This should help his handling. He was a rocket at first, but then it started to not turn.
If I remember correctly, Kanaan had a lot of understeer last year, Scott, didn't he? And he kept putting, every pit stop, he put a little bit more front wing in. It's always healthier to have the front of the car giving up, not the back.
Newgarden and Pagenaud in. Rick?
Well, in fact, as Pagenaud brings the car down, they've decided not to make any changes. Remember, they were concerned about understeer at one point, but apparently it kind of came back to the car. So as a result, they've said no changes. Kyle Moyer's crew chief on the radio just a few moments ago said everything's going great. Stay with it. Let's see how long it's going to take to fuel it up. They make it in about 9 seconds, and he's back out.
There goes Townsend Bell. Carlos Munoz has taken over the race lead, runner-up a few years ago, and who's had a very strong car throughout the month of practice. There's Castroneves headed back out onto the racetrack.
Now, this is a very tricky time as a driver, and you especially with Castroneves, he understands it. Eddie, as you said, he's got experience here. When you come out of the pit lane, the tire pressures need to build for a couple of laps as we watch the 12 of Will Power coming in. Rick?
A little bit earlier today, he was complaining about a vibration in the car. In fact, at one point he was up to 5th in the running and then slowly started to fall back. So the concern is it just a tire? They're hoping so. Jan?
And Scott Dixon just underway. Interestingly, he is a teammate to Tony Kanaan. His car was loose. So his teammate had push, his car was loose, meaning the back of the car was trying to step out. They've made a change for Scott Dixon. Now we'll see if he goes forward.
Alexander Rossi also in, and Carlos Munoz has come on and off pit road. There's Sage Karam. Rick?
Well, Sage Karam has been a great story so far. Remember, he started 23rd. He was running up as high as 17th. At one point, they told him he was the fastest car on the track. Jan?
Juan Pablo Montoya is going to get his service now. He is somebody who is actually running light on downforce. And in fact, no, they add some more in. So anytime you add front wing, it would mean that at a 10.2 second stop, that's not a lightning stop for the Penske team. But again, trying to dial in the car. And that's what happened when he won the race last year. Every single stop, they added downforce. This time it was at the front for Montoya.
So that cycle of stops complete, and Ryan Hunter-Reay goes back to the lead. But instead of having James Hinchcliffe tucked right up under the rear wing, it's over 2 seconds back to Simon Pagenaud in second place. Here's Hunter-Reay, and then the three-car trio of Pagenaud, Newgarden, and Townsend Bell in second, third, and fourth.
We'll see how many laps it takes Pagenaud to catch Hunter-Reay, because when you're out there by yourself, you're a little bit of a sitting duck.
So what happened on James Hinchcliffe's pit stop?
Well, as you watch, guys, we're going to watch for the fueler to connect the fuel probe going into the car. Now you can see the fueler right there. Seems like all is fine, but it's just a long time for the fuel to get in. So do they have a problem with the tank? The fuel flow wasn't happening quick enough. We'll have to see if the team notices something with that and corrects that problem. But he can't have pit stops like that all day long. You will not win the race in that length of time.
He's 5.4 seconds behind leader Ryan Hunter-Reay after 33 of 200 laps. Hunter-Reay, the winner from 2 years ago. The early leader, along with Hinch, of this 100th Indianapolis 500-mile race. We're back to the Brickyard after this from your ABC station. The world's largest single-day sporting event. The folks in the Snake Pit having a good time. And why not? Here are the numbers that makes the Indianapolis 500 the world's largest single-day sporting event.
Amazing, 350,000 people.
And all of those venues fit well inside this speedway, and a good chunk of the golf course from Scottsdale would fit inside here too. So Ryan Hunter-Reay leads. Townsend Bell second, Joseph Newgarden third, Simon Pagenaud fourth, Carlos Munoz fifth. James Hinchcliffe, by losing those 4 seconds on his pit stop, is all the way back to sixth. And look at the difference from the leader all the way back to Hinch. Here comes your leader down the front stretch at the Yard of Bricks, and Hinch is just coming out of turn 4.
Now, if Hinch is going to catch the leader, he's going to have to burn a lot more fuel than he was using previously.
So what happened there, Doc?
Let me show you now. Here's the fuel probe that goes in the car when Hinch pits. The red thing you said is called the redhead. That's his nickname. That has to open a butterfly on the side of the car. According to Robert Gouet, the strategist, the butterfly would not open, so the fuel man had to reach in and manually open the butterfly to get the redhead in so fuel would start flowing. They figured out the problem. They've got it fixed, but it cost them about 4.5 extra seconds.
All right, Doc, thanks. So Hinch got some ground to make up, but still very early in this Indianapolis 500. We've just hit the 100-mile mark, a fifth of the way home, and caution-free so far. The two drivers, Hinchcliffe and Hunter-Reay, swapping the lead back and forth in the opening run of the race. But now with Hinch having that problem on the pit stop, he's back in the field, and Hunter-Reay has led since the cycle of pit stops.
And Townsend Bell continues to run really, really well.
Interesting, I spoke to Townsend just earlier this week, and you know, he came here the first time as a 10-year-old boy, and he said his dad said to all 3 boys, I'll take you anywhere in the country. And his brother wanted to go to New York, one brother wanted to go to Alaska. Townsend Bell wanted to come to the Indianapolis 500. Went home to California and loved karting, got involved in it. His dad says, you're doing pretty well at this, why don't I support you with it? So now Townsend, after 20 years of racing, trying to get to the Indianapolis 500, he's now here and enjoying it and has a shot at winning the 100th running of the Indy 500. Remarkable.
Got a shot at the lead right here. And he's through. So Bell third in line as he comes up to overtake 2 cars that are back on the tail end of the lead lap. So Townsend Bell, who spends most of his racing season in one of 2 jobs, driving a Ferrari sports car on the World Sports Car Circuit and in the television booth on the Verizon INDYCAR Series for our colleagues over at NBCSN. I asked him the other day, can you win? He only runs the Indy 500 as an IndyCar race once a year. I said, can you win? He looked me right in the eye and said, yes.
The way he's driving right now, he plans to win. I was there when he won the GT class Daytona 24 hours, and it was a masterful job. It came down to the last 3 corners. This is a man that just loves racing, and he has an affinity for this place. I mean, he comes here, like you said, once a year, gets rid of his business jacket, puts his overalls on, and within 3 laps, he's flat around here. Look what he's doing now.
Dispatching traffic right now, and he heads over to Le Mans after the Indy 500 here. Doc, you have more?
Yeah, I spoke with Townsend prior to climbing in the car. He told me this morning the advantages of running once a year, I can sit and study everybody, their habits, their strengths, their weaknesses, and how they drive ovals. The disadvantages is my crew today is a pieced together crew that doesn't normally work. He said there are some R&D guys, some guys that came over from the Formula E team from Berlin, some contract guys. I've never worked with an engineer, and my 2 spotters today, we have never talked until I got to Indianapolis, so I've got some odds to overcome to win at Indy.
Well, it's all going well so far, as Bell is out in front, one of 6 different drivers that have led this race in its opening 105 miles. The 100th Indianapolis 500-mile race, the grandstands are jam-packed, just as they have been for almost all of those 100 years. They continue to flock to the Speedway. Caution out for debris at the exit of turn 2. Everybody coming down pit road. Doc?
And we'll get them all 3 together. Townsend Bell, the added front wing on the previous stop. He has called and said no changes on this stop for the 29 car. Right in front of him, the 2014 winner, Ryan Hunter-Reay. They have also said no changes, whereas further up pit road, James Hinchcliffe, half a turn of wing because the car is really loose. But there's the battle. Hunter-Reay will win the battle on pit road.
Yes, he will. We check our Honda race-off pit road. We just heard the story from Doc about Townsend Bell and his pit crew by being that Indy-only effort with the Andretti team, not having a lot of experience working together, those crew members. They give up the lead there and fall to 3rd.
I hit the wall.
That was Tony Kanaan's radio, so we'll follow up on that in a minute. See if he got the outside pit wall as he left his stall. Watch the top of your screen here.
Oh, there you go. People leaving pit lane. Oh.
That was Will Power and Kanaan colliding. Just past the 1/4 mark of the 100th running of the Indianapolis 500. Our telecast today presented by Firestone. Under the first caution of the race for debris out in turn number 2. A reminder about next weekend's action that moves to Detroit. Verizon IndyCar Series in the duel at Detroit, Saturday and Sunday, both here on ABC at 3:30 Eastern Time as they blast around the course on Belle Isle in downtown Detroit. So we just saw Tony Kanaan and Will Power there, 10 and 12, tangle on the pit lane. Here's Kanaan's radio.
Power, put me in the wall. I hit the wall.
Incident under review by the stewards in race control.
Now the rules are on the right-hand lane, that is the fast lane. The lane that's in the middle, that's the transfer lane. So once you've left your pit box, which is on the left-hand side, you're to get into the middle lane, as we're going to go right along here with Will Power. He should stay in that middle lane.
All clear, go right.
Yeah, and that's whoever's yelling all clear to him is not looking down the pit road.
That was the issue when they told them all clear, but they don't really care when you get a penalty if they said all clear or not.
You heard the call from the Will Power pit saying, sorry about that, you okay? How about the Kanaan pit?
Yes, and what happened, there was a further radio communication for Tony Kanaan. The team says, we think the car is okay, but Tony said, my steering is slightly changed. You can see it's just slightly, it's straight now, and he'll bend it to the left. And again, anytime your steering is not in the exact same position that it was last time, doesn't mean there's a problem with the front. More likely, there's been a slight tweak at the rear, known as the toe angle. So they think the car's fine, But he's going to have to feel it out at speed next time he goes into turn number 1.
All right, Jan, so how penalties work in the Verizon IndyCar Series. There are 3 stewards in race control. They look at it, they review it. They have a very sophisticated video replay system there. It's literally a 3-man vote. Majority rules. And they have a very lengthy list of penalty guidelines and a minimum, a medium, and a maximum penalty that they can apply to each infraction of the rules. So while they continue to clean up some of the marbles and debris on the racetrack, we will take a break, come back for the restart after this from your ABC station.
Townsend Bell takes the outside on the restart.
He's outside of Pagenaud, 3 wide into turn 1. Joseph Newgarden in that dark blue car moves up to second. Pagenaud shuffled back now to 5th.
Almost reminds me of a karting move, and Joseph came up through the karting ranks here just locally in Indiana. Wow.
I would say that ruffled Pagenaud's feathers. He's got to get it together here and start working his way back up again.
This is always a time that scared me because it's so crazy, because as a driver you want to pass the car in front. It's a great opportunity to do that, but you have to keep eyeful of your mirror because everybody's coming up from behind you.
Here comes Townsend Bell through to second. Back around Newgarden.
And Kanan has passed Pagenaud.
We just saw that collision in pit lane between Tony Kanaan and Will Power, and as a driver I was always worried that maybe it did a little bit of damage to the suspension even on a light bump like that, but you're driving around here over 220 miles an hour and 3 to 4 G's in the turns so early in this race. You're a little bit worried whether or not it might have some fatigue and break later on in the race.
And Pagenaud just got passed by his teammate Castroneves.
Here's Townsend Bell back to the lead. Penalties issued as a result of that contact on the pit lane between Will Power and Tony Kanaan. Power for unsafe release, sent to the back of the field. He was in 9th place, he restarted 31st. Also, Oriol Servia penalized for an unsafe release on his pit stop. He went from 19th place back to 30th. Power stopped and topped off the fuel, also made an adjustment on his car. Penske fans will immediately recall that Juan Pablo Montoya had a problem early in last year's race that sent him back to 32nd, and he wound up in victory lane.
Well, actually, I think that's a very good move because I'm sure Penske knew that they were going to get a penalty, so he brought him in at the very last opportunity during that last yellow to get a fuel top up. He was going to go to the back now, so he's back there. I think it was a smart move.
One other penalty, Buddy Lazier, who was already many laps down because of the problem with the throttle on the pace laps. He just got penalized for a pit exit violation. Here's Hinch trying to pick his way back to the front. Up to second. The problem on the first pit stop, the caution, giving him a chance to close up to the field. Another adjustment on the pit stop, a fresh set of tires, and Hinch works his way back toward the front. We ride here with Newgarden.
Townsend has a bad habit of crowding cars on the bottom. You can't do that and make it halfway through the race. No, you've got to give them room. That's not a good move.
And especially early, because drivers will remember that later in the race, but absolutely you're spot on with that one.
Now look how much room they're giving each other. That's the way to do it. You're too early on to be pushing people down on the bottom line.
Early problem overcome. James Hinchcliffe back to the lead, the 4th consecutive Indianapolis 500 that he's been in, that he's led.
Look at Pagenaud, how far behind he's fallen. Either he got flustered because something went wrong when they went by both sides, or there's something that he's having a problem with. Could be balance, could be anything at this point. It's very difficult to see. We'll see how he does coming out of 2 if he closes the gap in the car ahead of him.
Lift and change of gears coming out of the corner can't be a good sign, Rick.
Actually, I was just talking with his crew chief, his strategist, Kyle Moyer, and he says there are no problems with the car right now. Now, you'll remember during his first stint, he actually didn't run as well at the beginning. He began to make it up at the end. So I'm beginning to think it's possible that he's got one of those cars that runs better at the end of the stint. But once again, talking with the team, they said there's no actual problem with the car, at least not that Simon has reported.
Yeah, good point. Look at this.
3 abreast.
41 Hawksworth, 77 Serbia.
Oh, that is so tight and so dangerous to go high up in 1.
So Oriol Serbia in that white car trying to make up some of the ground he lost with the unsafe release penalty on pit road a minute ago.
And that's for 23rd and 24th position, guys. It's as much of a battle back in the pack as it is the front. Drivers are driving just as hard, sometimes a little harder because their car's not working as well as, say, the cars that are running up front. So, Eddie, you and I have had this before where you feel like you're exhausted at the end of the race and you could have actually driven harder than you've ever driven before, and you've ended up finishing 18th.
Here's Will Power trying to make up some of the lost ground from his penalty. Gets around Ed Carpenter, having a struggling day. Carpenter is. 2-time pole winner here for the 500 in that green and gold 20 car. And there's the race for the lead. So Ryan Hunter-Reay, the winner 2 years ago, out in front of the 100th Indianapolis 500-mile race. It was a thriller. He and Castro Neves going back and forth in the final laps. Hunter-Reay, a proud American boy in victory lane. So 1 lap to go. When Will Power got the penalty earlier, his team came down and topped off the fuel. Well, they did not pit under this yellow. So Power is now the leader. Hinchcliffe first off pit road is second. Hunter-Reay third, Castro Neves fourth, Townsend Bell is fifth. The stewards are investigating more contact on pit road involving the 22 car of Simon Pagenaud. Watch the neon yellow car here.
They're all diving for 1 space.
That's Mikhail Aleshin in the 7. If you're the stewards, do you vote to penalize or not?
That's a really tough one.
So which way do you go?
I think you have to draw the line and just say they have to be careful because this race will be lost for 1 in the pits.
Extended the yellow. We'll take a break. You saw Simon Pagenaud drop to the back of the field from 10th place, penalized for unsafe release on pit road. Here we come, green flag, Will Power leads, heavily pursued as they come to the yard of bricks. And they waved off the start.
Is that Pagenaud in the pits?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that Pagenaud wasn't going to try and take a fuel stop here. Once it went green, he was probably trying to duck in and get some fuel. He's going to take a case of it now anyways. So he's at the back of the grid, so maybe it makes sense to fill it up.
Yeah. This is one thing about the moisture on this track. This is not some place you want to be turning into a corner 230 miles an hour with any moisture on the track.
Well, and you and I have sensed this before because the track is so big here. The track can be dry in turns 1 and 2, and rain can be sprinkling in turn 3. So it's great that we have the great spotters here. You've got the spotters in turn 1 for the teams, and also the spotters up in turn 3. They would radio into IndyCar race control, let them know that there might be a little bit of rain coming down there, but also the officials would sense that also.
It would be terrorizing to turn into a corner here and there'd be water on the ground.
And we see the spotters up there on top of the stands above the spectators themselves. So up in that area there, that is turn 3, and that's where Rick Mears is a spotter and for Team Penske, and he is up there. And the interesting thing that every time he walks up there to take his place up on the perch, all the spectators see him walking up the stands, and they turn around and they give him a big round of applause. And there you can see Rick right in the center of your screen.
And when you mentioned Rick Mears, my thoughts immediately went to see where Castroneves is at, and he is P4.
Yep, that's Rick, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th from the left of your picture. The 4-time winner.
What do they call him, the Rocket Man?
The Rocket.
The Rocket.
He just had a knack for this speedway. Qualifying, race, always quick to credit that he was with a good team and had good equipment, but don't underestimate the talents of the man as well to know what it takes to win here at Indianapolis. So a little sprinkle that doesn't even show up on the radar extends this caution flag. What a delightful time it was having a conversation with Foyt, Unser, and Mears, the 3 4-time winners of the Indianapolis 500. Coming to the green to restart the Indianapolis 500. 75 laps will be complete of the 200 that make up the distance. You see the pace car getting away from the field. Simon Pagenaud, after being penalized for that unsafe release from 10th to 30th position, did stop and top off the fuel. Ed Carpenter's day appears to be done, his car being pushed back toward Gasoline Alley.
There was nothing power could do to stop Hinchcliffe.
Now Hunter Ray to the outside of Will Power as they streak toward turn 3.
Power must be running a lot of downforce, Scott.
You know, it's been interesting because we've spoken to all the Penske drivers this month, and they said, you know, we just don't seem like we're fast enough. We hope the car will be better come race day. Even Elio said, I think I just maybe am a mile an hour short or 2 miles an hour short. So we'll have to see whether or not the end of the race plays into their favor or not.
Power's going to get passed again.
It's Townsend Bell. So the 3 drivers that have run first, second, and third for a lot of the race, except when Hinch had the problem on pit road, are back in the 1, 2, and 3 positions on the scoring pylon.
Now for Will Power, remember he pitted differently to everybody else, so he's got 13 more laps on his tires. But I wouldn't think that we have that much of a problem.
And he's going, oh, there we go.
Newgarden around Power. Castroneves next up on the back. There's Aleshin looking to the inside of Carlos Munoz. Lost some momentum. They're going to feast on him down the front stretch. Challenge for the lead here, Hunter Ray.
It's almost as if these two have made a pact right from the beginning. They've been helping each other, gaining speed all the time. When one passes, the other one just says, okay, I'll lift a little bit, because they know they can work together. I guarantee you, if they keep doing that to lap 195, that will end.
Our first glimpse of Graham Rahal in this race. Red 15 car there. Started way back in the field. In 26th place, he's worked his way up to 13th.
When I spoke to him the other day, he said, I think I have a good race car. It's always, Eddie, as you know as a driver, when you say, I think, that means you're going to bed the night before, hoping and praying that when you show up on race morning, it's magically helped itself.
As if you think if you say it often enough, it'll be this, it'll be thus. Man, these cars are so close. Who's really, really running a good line and very aggressive is Newgarden.
Joseph Newgarden 4th in line there. Started in the center of the front row, the 25-year-old from the Nashville area. In his 5th 500. Said he wasn't worried about the first lap starting in the middle. He was worried about all the laps after that and staying up front. And you can see what a struggle it's been at times to keep up with Hunter Ray and Hinchcliffe and Bell.
You're absolutely right, but what I really like about Joseph Newgarden is that he is a closer. Every time he has a chance to win a race and have a good result, he always pulls it off. How about that for a late minute pass from Castroneves?
Yellow car there, top of the screen.
What a beautiful shot. Just shows how big this speedway is.
And that straightaways are 5/8 of a mile long, so you're getting along there pretty quickly. And here goes Castroneves again.
There we go. We've got a racy Penske.
Dispatching his teammate Will Power backwards, but look at Elio. He's got speed in the middle of the turn, guys. They have changed that car from the beginning of the race. He looks like he's got something now that he can drive to the front.
Let's listen to the throttle, see how he does in the throttle. His car is stuck. He did not lose any distance going in to 1, and he's going to be all over him turning into 3.
And you know that feeling, Eddie, that when the car works well, you carry speed down to the center of the turn to the apex, you carry speed out, and here he goes again around Joseph Newgarden.
This is the only man in the field that can win Indy 4 times.
Enjoying the club.
And he is on a tear right now. In 19 laps or in 18 laps will be at the halfway mark. This is a really good time to be picking up your pace.
Juan Pablo Montoya, after his crash a little while ago, is with Jan.
Yes, and he's watching this action on the racetrack as well. What happened to you, Juan?
I just got loose and lost the car. You know, it's kind of weird actually understeering to the corner and then the thing just snapped. It's just difficult. You know, people were doing a lot of dumb things in the restarts and I felt there was no necessary. So took my time and started coming through the field there. Car felt actually pretty good and it just stepped out of nowhere.
You said it was inherent throughout this whole couple of weeks leading up to the race. Now, could that be an issue then for Will Power? We just saw him dropping back.
No, I mean, we all got different setups and different things, and I don't know, it just happened.
Unfortunately, it will not be 2 years in a row, at least at Indy, for Juan Pablo Montoya.
All right, Jan, thanks.
You know, he is so laid back all the time. It's just amazing that when he puts the helmet on, he becomes like this driver that's possessed like we saw last year. Yeah, the car.
Crazy man from Colombia. He will race anything. I think if the cars just came here and they took him off the truck and they said, okay, it's time to go race, he'd probably win every race. No testing, nothing. Let's just go race.
Well, he's out of this one and is right now posted in 32nd place. So the two-man tag team at the front that the race started off with, James Hinchcliffe and Ryan Hunter-Reay, continue to hold the top 2 spots.
And Townsend Bell is making anybody that wants to pass him work very hard for it. Here comes Castroneves getting a toe off Newgarden.
Here's Castroneves on Newgarden.
Oh, look at Pagano, almost runs to the back of that car. That's the same place last year, Scott, where he broke his front wing, isn't it, on the back straight?
It's amazing that you have to get so close to the cars in front. The drivers are saying this year to be able to maneuver the car past. And look at Elio. It looks like somebody just gave him a big boost of power.
But the reason he did that was 2 laps before Townsend Bell shut the door on him. And I think he had a little bit of Brazilian anger that he carried through.
So Castroneves up to 3rd place in that bright yellow 3 car. He started in 9th. Winner in 2001, 2002, and 2009. It is 16th 500 at the age of 40.
Townsend Bell has a really good car. He hasn't dropped back at all. He might even have a shot at passing Castroneves back, turning into 1.
Picked up that draft last time and picked
there
up
he
that
goes.
top lap. Now Bell with a peak.
No, Elio was already, see that little wiggle right there from Townsend Bell. It got a little bit dirty air. Elio made a little statement there, just dragged him down the bottom, said, I'll let you have a little bit of a look, guy, but you're not going through.
As he tries to catch Hinchcliffe for 2nd. We talked with him before the start of the race. He said it would be appropriate, right? A 4-time winner on the 100th Indianapolis 500. Will we see the fence climb at the Yard of Bricks today?
Don't change a thing.
Copy that.
The 100th Indianapolis 500 telecast, presented by Firestone. Brought to you by Ram Trucks. Guts, glory, Ram.
How the cars have evolved over 100 years of the Indianapolis 500-mile race to the 230-mile-an-hour straightaway speeds we see today off into the Speedway's corners that still remain the same. 9 degrees they've been since it was built. Will Power, remember, was out of cycle with the other leaders. He's on pit road now and headed toward Rick.
After the penalty, had to go all the way to the back of the field. They have not made any adjustments on the car so far. The last time he was in, they did check the front wing to make sure when there was contact on pit lane, they had a front wing ready to go, but chose not to put it on. They've made no changes. They talked about doing a wing adjustment, but decided against it. Full load of fuel. He's out in 8.8 seconds.
Castroneves back on Hinchcliffe for the race lead. 30th lead change of this Indianapolis 500, and we're not to halfway yet.
Only thing that changed here is Hinchcliffe has changed his dancing partner. He got rid of Hunter Ray, and he's dancing with Castroneves.
There you see Power blending in, just losing a lap on that pit stop. Our aerial coverage today brought to you by DirecTV. If you call yourself a sports fan, you gotta get DirecTV. Beautiful day, 83 degrees, though you see some clouds beginning to build around the Speedway. Will there be a rain shower that might alter the picture as they're 3 wide here? It's Sage Karam on the outside. Townsend Bell down low to turn 1. That is close. Karam is in trouble. Hard crash.
I just started to say bail out of it. It's not worth it at this point in the race.
He had worked his way up to 6th place.
Teamed up with a local team here, Dreyer and Reinbold.
Turbo is on a little bit of fire on the right-hand side.
Team that he had good success with here a couple of years ago. Remember, Sage had a association with Ganassi Racing last year, and they chose not to renew it, but he's back in the INDYCAR, also going to go off and drive in the Endurance Series for the new Lexus program that's now just coming out. So after here, he'll have some time in a car, working very hard to get back into a full-time INDYCAR drive.
Look at that tire still spinning because it's off the ground from the way the car sits. It was a very, very hard crash there for the 21-year-old from Nazareth, Pennsylvania. In his 3rd Indianapolis 500, just like he did with this team 2 years ago, from the back to the front, but this one has ended shy of halfway.
Okay, what we're going to look for, guys, here is for Sage Karam. Now, there's 2 cars next to each other, but watch up the top here. The car on the lower side, that is Townsend Bell. Not enough room there. Townsend's right down to the white line, but Sage really should have bailed out of that, because this is not the last lap or the last 10 laps of the race. It really was a no-win situation to try to carry speed around the outside of the track there, but a driver with more experience probably would have realized that and taken his foot off of it and just let Townsend go.
But he was on a tear. He was doing really, look at that. There's no way for Townsend Bell to go anywhere. He was going so well. All he had to do, like you said, just bail out of that pass, filter back in, and he probably would have passed him within a lap and a half. Let's remember how far back he started, and he had worked his way all the way up to 6th place. He really needed a finish today, Scott.
Look at that impact.
It's great driving, though, to let the car land on the soft barrier as he did. You never want to go in nose first. It's always better if you can spread that energy on the whole side of the right-hand. The whole right-hand side.
Outside, inside, outside. Hold your line. Clear, clear. Go low, go low, go low. Yellow flag, yellow flag, yellow flag.
Now, the smart guy in that pack, Joseph Newgarden, got out of it when he was being squeezed, gave himself some more space by the 2 racing side by side going into the turn, and you see the marks there on the safer barrier. That steel and foam energy reduction. Now that is a layer of wall that's actually just in front of the concrete that has some foam in between that layer of barrier, as we call it, and then also the concrete wall behind it. It's something that's really been pioneered here from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and now found on tracks all around not only the country but around the world, and even implemented on all NASCAR tracks. So Eddie, not around when you and I were driving.
No, we can thank Tony George for that. That was a lot of effort put into that. You know, when we saw that last replay of Karam, I kind of see what happened there. He had almost a half a car lead on Townsend Bell when he went around Newgarden, and he probably thought, I might be able to make it around the outside, but it looked like he had to lift.
Rick?
Helio Castroneves brings his car in from the lead as he goes down pit lane. Right now he's resetting all his equipment, his weight jackers, all the adjustments he can make. So far, they have not made any adjustments in this car. All the adjustments he's been able to do to improve the car, he's been doing from inside the cockpit. No adjustment, and they're going to send him out, but he's stuck because of his teammate, Pagano.
Ryan Hunter-Reay, this yellow, a big break for Hunter-Reay. They had a right front vibration and it's getting worse and worse. No changes for Hunter-Reay, no changes for Hinchcliffe on this stop.
Frantic action on the pit lane, so valuable for track position. So Helio Castroneves was the star of that last segment of the race, rocketed all the way up to be going back and forth for the lead. Can he be a four-time champion of the Indianapolis 500 today? We've got a long way to go, still just shy of halfway. And we're back to Indianapolis after this message from your ABC station. A 100 years. It's a long time. They continue to run this race Sunday, Memorial Day weekend, every year to great crowds and great competition. So it's halftime at the Indianapolis 500. Well, sort of. I mean, we're just about at the halfway point of the race, and we're going to have a break that's about like halftime of a football game, because where Sage Karam crashed, they have to make a brief repair to that safer barrier. So this caution going to be extended by just a few minutes. Well, you see the crew out there already working on it. And we'll have the restart in just a minute when it's ready. But for the moment, we'll take advantage of the halftime. Not to get scores and highlights, but to get a break in. Come back for more highlights on the racetrack.
Freddie is 6th. Behind Bell, this ought to be interesting.
Sorry. Okay. Next time on.
For Brian Clausen leading at halfway, he'll get a check.
Back at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, just across halfway in the 100th Indianapolis 500-mile race. Helio Castroneves is the leader. They've examined that safer barrier, decided that it does not need repair. They're cleaning up some debris on the racetrack, and we should be able to go back green momentarily. Just joining us, show you what's happened so far through the first 250 miles of this one. Went green About 12:18 Eastern Time, and unlike the last couple of years where we've had a first turn crash, this one was clean.
It was not just clean, it was perfect. They got going, and all of a sudden this dance started with the 2 first cars.
Will Power got penalized for this.
You have to drive out of your pit box and go in the center lane, which is the transfer lane, then go up into the right-hand lane, the high-speed lane. His team allowed him to get right out onto the high-speed lane. The number 2 car, Juan Pablo Montoya, ended up having a very loose race car. The back end came around from him, and then he ended up hitting the wall.
Simon Pagenaud also penalized for avoidable contact on the pit lane. He and Mikhail Aleshin got together. Roger Penske looking on as Helio Castroneves rocketed to the lead, and Sage Karam with a hard crash.
He was trying to pass Townsend Bell on the outside. I can almost understand how he took the bait, because he had almost half a car length ahead of him, but he kind of was hesitant with the throttle. When he came down, there was just no room, and Townsend Bell was just on the inside.
What do we say all the time, Eddie? Sometimes there's just no grip up on the top side in the gray area, but just the third time for him to come here, it's actually difficult for him to know everything about this racetrack. Experience certainly pays off.
But let's acknowledge that he went all the way to the top 6.
Oh, tremendously.
A heck of a drive.
Great talent, great American talent, and we'll see a lot more of Sage Karam.
So they finish picking up the debris around this giant racetrack as we continue to marvel at the size of the crowd, though we shouldn't be surprised. I think what's happened here with this race, through some things that have gone on in open wheel racing, mid-90s and so on, some people maybe lost their affection for this race, and this 100th has given those an opportunity to come back out to the Speedway and fall in love with it all over again. And you could see they've responded. A lot of folks just absolutely wanted to be here.
This race means so many different things to different generations. I've spoken to children, I've spoken to, and we just saw interviews of a 90-year-old that has been coming here for a very long time. It's an American institution. I was disappointed I never got to see Woodstock, but coming here today, I feel like I'm at the motorsports Woodstock. This is our Woodstock.
That might be Woodstock right there.
Do they know there's a race going on in there?
It may not matter to them, I'm not sure. But it's sure a great atmosphere to be in the snake pit. A look from Will Power's race car, and a reminder to download INDYCAR Mobile to access exclusive in-car cameras, hear driver and pit crew chatter, and more on Verizon. So this 500-mile race, a journey for a driver. The start, you talked about how terrifying it was, Eddie, and now you've gotten through that, you've settled in, you've had a couple of cautions, couple of pit stops. Under those helmets now, what's this stage of the race like?
What is happening is that certain drivers have been around certain other drivers, and they're starting to work together. So they're figuring out who has what, and there are some enemies out there right now. There's Townsend Bell and Castroneves had a bit of a moment, and Castroneves came back and told him, I'm not going to accept that, Scott. So right now, you're not quite ready for that last sprint, but you're starting to formulate a plan.
And you're saying that plan to your team over the radio all the time, because as the track is changing, because there's more rubber getting on the race course from all the cars going around, the track is getting a little bit hotter. The cars will start to slide around just a little bit more. The good drivers and the good teams will adjust for that. The drivers that are going to be up there running for victory, guys, will be the guys that are out there with knowledge, experience, and will make the changes accordingly to the track changing conditions.
One lap till the restart. Helio Castroneves leads. Ryan Hunter-Reay is second.
Next in, I think we got to do fuel green 1.7 or fuel green 2.7.
Yeah, that's going to be tough, especially, 3 cars back. That's when it becomes the real issue.
Yeah, 10-4, we just can't wait too late to save, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like I could pop early right now, so.
So fuel is, and sometimes the numbers on that are code for either the mile per gallon that the driver needs to achieve, and he sees that real time on his dash in the car, or their particular fuel settings that they want him to do to make the strategy play out to the end.
You're absolutely right, but to put it succinctly, what the engineer is trying tell him to do is go as fast as you can and use the least amount of fuel you can. And what he told him, if I am three car lengths behind, I can't do that. It didn't sound like he had bought into that strategy.
Let's see, restart will come with 96 laps to go in this 200-lap race. It's Castroneves, Hunter-Reay, Hinchcliffe, Townsend Bell, and Marco Andretti up to 5th place. Hunter Ray to the lead. How about Tony Kanaan with those outside passes to get to third?
He just put himself right back in the mix of things.
Tony Kanaan, the light blue car there. And they're frantically trying to sort it out.
Hinchcliffe got filtered back to 5th place. And here comes Castro Neves again. The biggest surprise for me today has been Townsend Bell. He's been consistent the whole time, always up in front. We'll see how he deals with falling back a few places. He's now in 6th, but I think he'll find a way back to the front again.
Hinchcliffe and Newgarden side by side through the corner. And here comes Bell.
I'm telling you, Bell is going to be an issue at the end. He is relentless.
Kanaan all over Hunter Ray for the lead. Castroneves shuffled back to 3rd, maybe 4th.
They are passing between 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. You just don't do that.
And we're surprised because there has been changes on the aerodynamics of these cars. The guys wondered whether or not they'd be able to do this, but I think it's better this year than last year. And that exchange put Castroneves further back. Now he's got to reset himself, maybe make a few changes inside the cockpit of the car, adjust the car, make sure the handling comes back to his preference.
Kind of puts him back where he was before he made that big run up in the last stint, right? That's where he was running about.
Well, we'll wait to see what happens here. Maybe his car's a little bit better as the run goes on. So as we start to deplete the fuel load and the other guy's tires start to wear off, maybe he's got a car that's a little bit better further.
How about Tony Kanaan? Was concerned about damage the steering wheel when he had that pit road contact with Will Power earlier, dropped back a little bit. Now here the winner from 2013 is up to 2nd.
And it is always very scary when you even bump a rear wheel just a little bit at Indy in the pits, because you never know how the car is going to handle. But right now it looks like he has one of the faster cars on the track.
Watch this.
There you go.
Can hear the crowd.
Everybody is standing up.
Wheel 2 if you're going to lead.
That's got to give you an extra 10 horsepower.
Had a long chat with Tony just the other day. Right now, as Ryan Hunter-Reay is looking on the inside to see if he can take the lead back. Tony told me he knows that he only has a few years left on the IndyCar level, and he's fighting as hard as he can to stay in it. With performances like this here today, then he's going to continue to have teams look at him. He said, my goal after it's time to retire out of IndyCar racing, he says, I want to go to Le Mans. I've won Daytona 24-hour. I would like to put the Le Mans 24-hour also on my resume. Jan?
Well, when you watch Tony Kanaan and his way of muscling up to the front, he had a very close incident. In the Sage Karam accident, he was hit by debris. I checked with the car. With the team, I should say, I said, is the car okay? They go, no, he was hit. Tony Kanaan was hit on the hand by debris from that accident. Remember, we see Tony now battling with Townsend Bell, so he's still after it. And amazing that he's rubbed the wall. He's been hit by debris in the hand from the Sage Karam accident. Now, speaking of Sage, we are at the medical center. Sage Karam has been released. First of all, Sage, you seem like you're wincing a bit. Are you okay?
Yeah, just banged my knee pretty good. It's I'm just more bummed than hurt. You know, the car was so fast all day today, and I just seemed to be the only one that could really just run through everyone. And I'm so disappointed. You know, Gas Monkey Energy car, DRR crew, they all worked their tails off, and then that happens. Just kind of wrong place, wrong time. No blame on anyone, just kind of a racing thing. Joseph got checked up. We went 3 wide in turn 1, cleared Joseph. I had a little nose on Townsend, thought he knew I was there. He probably knew I was there, but you know, I thought he was gonna back out, and he didn't. I'm gonna have to live this one down. This is hard, you know. I'm gonna look back at that and just wish I didn't go into turn 1 side by side.
Glad you're okay. Thank you, Sage.
Thanks.
disappointment for the young man from Nazareth, Pennsylvania. But glad to see he's okay after that hard crash a little while ago.
Very talented young race car driver.
So Tony Kanaan shuffled back to 5th place now after his rally, and here for the lead goes Townsend Bell on Hunter Ray. And Marco Andretti around Tony Kanaan. Kanaan gives up another. Joseph Newgarden goes by him, so the deeper into this run we get, the handling of Kanaan's car seems to be sliding just a little bit. 88 laps to go, long way left to race in this 100th Indianapolis 500 miler. We're back to Indy after this from your ABC station. Back live at Indianapolis, and a crash. We're under yellow. An accident in turn 2 involving a couple of cars. This is Connor Daly limping back around to the pit lane, and that's Mikhail Aleshin, who is climbing from his car. And we're under yellow for the 4th time in this race.
Now watch this guy, Aleshin. He's by himself, so we're going to watch as we roll here. Just watch his car. It looks like the back end of the car starts to break loose on him. Off he goes, hits the wall. The 77 of Oriole Service sees all this happen in front of him. Car looks like it starts to lose control underneath him, so off he is into the wall. Excuse me, that's the 19
that's Connor
of Gabby Chavis.
Aleshin's spin looks very similar to Montoya's.
Yeah.
Got completely sideways in the middle of the corner.
But when he got out of the
is that the 18 or the 19 that's coming up behind there? Because I can't see it.
It's Connor Daly.
So the 18 of Connor Daly sees it all happening in front of him. Yeah. So not only does he have some front nose damage, guys, he's got some rear wing damage also. So he'll have to come in for service both in the front wing and the rear wing.
This is riding with Graham Rahal.
Nice job. Holy crap.
Boy, that was a good call that Rahal did.
There's no time to react there, was it?
He could have gone high or he could have gone low. Normally, you try to avoid the accident by going up. That was a perfect call. He was completely blind for probably a second or two.
18 of Connor Daly sees it all happen in front of him and just makes a wrong reaction. Unfortunately, he's going to have some repairs to the car.
When Mikhail got out of the car, he walked right around to the right rear of the car, like he was looking to see if a tire had gone down or something had broken or whatever. So
could very well have been.
Yeah. Graham Rahal, our Firestone Durable driver of the race, he started back in 26th position, just avoided that wreck, and look at the progress he's made through the field. Thought he had a really good car in race trim while they didn't qualify well. And he's in striking distance, and we've still got a long way to go.
I talked to his dad right at the start of the race, and he said that he had a really good car, and in practice he went to the back of the line and back to the front twice. So I hope they're making it better for him. Both he and Marco Andretti are having a really good run. Marco's now 6th, and Rahal 11th.
Connor Daly disappointment will be the word to describe his day. Young American from Indianapolis left to watch as the field comes on to pit road here. Doc?
Townsend Bell coming in. They cannot talk him in and let him change anything on the car. Remember, the first time he came in, the crew was slow. The last time he pitted, they were done, and he didn't leave on time. It cost him a couple of spots. We'll watch his stop. In front of him, Ryan Hunter-Reay. No changes whatsoever on the former winner. And then at the end of pit road, the pole sitter, James Hinchcliffe, he said, and I quote, "This car is money. Don't change a thing." Whoa, contact at the end of pit road.
Townsend Bell bounces off and collects Hunter-Reay.
With the spare wing, get ready with the spare wing.
Those are two teammates' cars that just got taken out together at the end of pit road.
Arguably two of the fastest cars.
Yes.
Here, please started. Try and stay on the lead lap.
Looks like Hunter-Reay's car got the worst of it.
Eddie, you and I talk about track position all the time here, so as we're going to watch a replay, let's watch and see what happens. Crew's doing a magnificent job.
I think it started with Castroneves.
Let's watch
but
here.
He's out in that outside lane.
Where he's supposed to be.
Oh yeah. Well, I wasn't blaming him. I'm just saying when that tire touched him, that turned Townsend Bell in, and he had absolutely no control. It's a sin to see this. Those two drivers, all three of them, you could have taken all three cars out there.
Now, as abusive as that is to the suspension on the car right now, I'd be really worried about something breaking later in the race. Wow.
The latest twist of plot in the Indianapolis 500. Two of the front runners for most of this race are in trouble.
The 100th Indianapolis 500 telecast presented by Firestone. Firestone, we don't just make tires, we make champions.
Firestone tires on every car in the field. Today's Indianapolis 500-mile race. Standing up to the speeds of entering these corners at the 230-plus mile-an-hour mark. Our Indianapolis 500 telecast today, presented by Firestone. Well, been an interesting last few minutes. You saw a lot of it in our side-by-side coverage. Alex Tagliani and Alexander Rossi did not pit on this caution. They are first and second. Elio Castroneves first off the pit lane. He's third. You saw the donut mark on the left side of his car that we normally see in a NASCAR race, the tire rubs and so on. After a couple of stops for repairs and so on, Townsend Bell is back to 25th. Ryan Hunter-Reay is back in 26th position, with a major hole to dig out of to get back into contention for this race.
And we really don't know if their cars are okay.
Alex Tagliani didn't lead for very long.
And Townsend Bell did not hang around for very long.
Alexander Rossi just making a chance to go down by the wall, very close as it was, but very aggressive move, but it paid off for him.
Rossi out of sequence on pit stops with some of the others. He made a top-off pit stop a little earlier, and so that allowed them to play a little strategy game for track position. So the young driver, originally from California, spent a lot of time in Europe, working his way up to Formula One, now back here in the States racing IndyCar in his rookie season, is leading the Indianapolis 500.
And when I spoke to him the other day, he said he was just taking it one day at a time, knew that he had a great team wrapped around him, and the exchange of information amongst the teammates was something they never found in Formula One. He was really enjoying it, but he said, I know when I get onto the oval track, boy, it's going to be different. I spoke to him a couple of days after that, after rookie orientation. He just goes, this is something I've never experienced before.
Did you say he's living it one day at a time?
He said he was going to go here and live it one day at a time. Today is a big day, though.
Today he's living it one lap at a time. And he's doing a really good job. All he has to do is finish. Townsend Bell in the pits.
Stewards assessing him a stop-and-go penalty for his role in that contact with Ryan Hunter-Reay exiting pit road a minute ago.
Boy, the stewards sure have been busy this race.
Hunter-Reay and Bell both one lap down. Bell perhaps going a second lap down. You could just see him leaving the top of the screen here as he exits the pit lane, and the leader, Alex Tagliani, comes by. Excuse me, Alexander Rossi comes by. Check that, it is Tagliani. I thought it was.
We call him one fast Canadian now, won't we?
Tag, driving for AJ Foyt, started last in this race. The last time a driver who started last led an Indianapolis 500 was back in 1980 when Tom Sneva did it.
Tag has started first and last. He's covered the whole grid. One very fast race car driver.
Had a crash on qualification day. Team had to rebuild this race car. Really didn't get a lot of practice, and the AJ Foyt team in general has had a lot of trouble sorting out their cars, but they've just played a little strategy here. Remember, he didn't stop under that yellow, and so the Quebec driver is out in front.
So he's probably really waiting for another yellow here at some point. the not too distant future. Look at these cars, 3 abreast, turning into 1.
Townsend Bell trying to get back a lap, if you will. That's Rossi just ahead there, 98. Bell now, first car 1 lap down, is between them. Check that, Bell is 2 laps down. He and Hunter Ray lost a lap, getting repairs and restarted in that scrum earlier on pit road. And then Bell lost the second lap on the drive-through penalty.
Great couple of camera shots there. Love that.
And Rossi tries to follow Bell through to get to the lead.
And he made the right decision. Take his foot off the throttle.
That's something that we heard Sage Karam said that he wishes that he probably would have done also.
So Townsend Bell now on the tail end of 1 lap down. He's got to come all the way back through the field and pass the leader again, or play some strategy to get that back.
Or if he's in the lead and there's a yellow, he gets a big advantage from it.
So Tagliani, Rossi, Hinchcliffe, Kanaan, Castroneves. And the rest of the scoring order coming across the top of the screen. Haven't talked much Scott Dixon today.
Haven't seen much of Scott Dixon today.
Running in 10th right now.
Right behind Rahal.
2008 winner, driving for the powerful Chip Ganassi racing team.
And now he's about to be right in front of Rahal.
Eddie, you know that when your car comes off the trailer and you put it on the track here at Indianapolis, you get a good sense for how your car is going to work throughout the month. And as we saw in the very first week of oval practicing here, you would have to say that the Ganassi cars probably were not as fast as we anticipated they would be, and they really have not found much speed since then.
New leader, Alexander Rossi, around Alex Tagliani. Yeah, Scott said just the other day, he said nothing's come easily this month. And he's not getting anything easy today either. He's having to work for every spot on the track. So Alexander Rossi, a native of Nevada City, California, in his first Indianapolis 500-mile race. He's gotten an eyeful a couple of times. Right now, he's the race leader. What a day here in Indianapolis. What a crowd enjoying the 100th Indianapolis 500-mile race. You saw Marco Andretti struggling in this section of the race. He had run up into the top 6 earlier. You just saw him get passed by 3 cars, including 2 at once, and another to his outside.
That was Matty Brabham's going by on the right-hand side, but yes, Marco has been struggling. Watch this. I think we understand how this is. Cars coming down both sides. He sees it right away in the mirror, pedals off of it because he knows his car is not very good, and it's strange because his other team cars have been running so great, Rick.
They've been on the radio, and apparently he has a tire pressure problem in the front. They said they have high tire pressures. Not sure why it is that way right now, but that's his issue. Says he just doesn't have the control of the front end the way he likes it. As you can see, it's significantly affecting his performance.
There is no worse feeling than being in the Indianapolis 500 and being 20 or 19 or 18 miles off the pace, because you cannot do anything. You can't get out of people's way.
If you're not a regular in IndyCar racing, there are all kinds of data that stream live from the car back to the pit box, so they can see the tire pressures and tire temperatures on all sides of the car as it's racing on the racetrack, as well as what kind of fuel burn, what fuel map the driver's got, what gear selection he's using, all kind of things that the team can see coming back in real time. So Alexander Rossi, second car in line, continues to lead. He's out of pit sequence by about 6 laps to the other front runners, as Alex Tagliani has just made a pit stop and cycled himself toward the back of the field. Let's go up to speed from second place. Helio Castroneves on back. Rick?
Helio Castroneves loved the car on Carb Day, said it had finally gotten the balance back, and that's exactly what he's been able to show. On the restarts, Roger Penske's been telling him, we don't seem to have the same oomph that those Hondas have, but they've been able to do it in the pits. In fact, after that last pit stop, he said it's your pit crew that got you out there. Jan?
And watch Tony Kanaan. He's right behind Helio Castroneves, and that's where he wants to be. Believe it or not, after that contact on pit road, he says, my car is better now. He likes how it's handling. The only downside, I think I have too much downforce we need to take it out at the next stop because I can follow well here, but I can't lead. Doc?
James Hinchcliffe's engineer, Alan McDonald, has said we need cloud cover. The more clouds we have, the better we run. When the sun comes out, we develop a significant understeer. They've made a front wing change. They just said now they're going to make a significant rear wing change on the next stop. Back behind them, how about Carlos Munoz? He's had 2 top 5 finishes in 3 starts here. He made a mistake last year on the final stop, or he would have 3 top 5 finishes. They're wanting to start to trim the car out on these final 2 stops, running solid. And behind him, Joseph Newgarden. Strategist Brent Harvey says we've been hesitant to trim the car. We did take some rear wing out on the previous stop, but these next couple of stops, we're going to see what the young man can do with lack of downforce in traffic. John.
Now you're talking about downforce, and we already documented Tony Kanaan. Of course, his teammate Scott Dixon also carrying a lot of downforce. That helps you in the corners, but it slows you here on the straight. Remember, they were banking on 120-degree track temperature. Right now it's 116, not as high as they thought, Rick.
Well, Marco Andretti just having not the day he wanted. We were talking with him the other day. He said he would much rather have a chance to start in last place with a car that would run well than be up front with a car that doesn't. That's exactly what he's been having today. Even though he was up front, the car wasn't working right. Now they come in, make some changes, and hope he can get back up where he was.
Now he's going to lose a lap here and needs this race desperately to stay green while the leaders cycle through a set of pit stops to give him a shot to get back on cycle. There is the race for the lead. Alexander Rossi did pit under the green flag on the same lap that Marco Andretti just did, so that's Castroneves in the yellow car and Kanaan in the blue car, first and second.
An interesting thing has happened the last 10-15 laps. The cars are not as bunched up as they were before, Scott. They're starting to spread out. Everybody's starting to get trimmed, starting to think what they're going to do for that last rush, so you're going to see some differences in cars. And that last rush is right around the corner. We are maybe 25 laps away from when everybody starts getting a little bit meaner and not as generous in giving space on the track.
When you talk about trimming, that's when the crew will take some wing out of the car, and that's when the car is a little bit lighter on downforce, as Jan was explaining, so it'll go faster down the straightaway. You need that for drafting, but the driver's going to have to pedal in the turns to be able to keep up to the guys in front of him.
So green flag pit stops coming up for the leaders of the 100th Indianapolis 500-mile race. Jules Gu drank champagne on his pit stop in 1913. The Wood brothers certainly made headlines for Jim Clark in '65. They've revolutionized it. Back after this from your ABC station. They wanted a place where people could test their automobiles to the limit. And doesn't that define what Indianapolis is?
Absolutely. When you think about it, they designed it for cars to be going 80 miles an hour. Now we're going 230.
People have become famous around the world for their accomplishments here at the Speedway, including Helio Castroneves, who's won this race 3 times, trying to join that exclusive club of 4-time winners. No one's ever won it more than 4 times. A win today would join Castroneves to A.J. Foyt, Al Unser, and Rick Mears in that club. What would it mean to you, Helio?
It would be great to join a elite group. It would be great to see history after 30 years, you know, that nobody were able to win 4 times. So I'm very happy to be in this special opportunity, and I'm going to do everything I can to make this happen.
Some drivers just have a knack for certain speedways, and if you look at Helio Castroneves over the years, he almost always is a factor in racing for the win here at the Brickyard.
And he drives for the man that has had the most success of all here, Roger Penske. He has Rick Mears sitting up there in that tower spotting for him. And all he has to really do is use all of those tools, and he's done a great job at it. I see him as being in that group right at the end, making a run for it today.
There's Roger, the 16-time winner here in Indianapolis. First came here in 1951 with his dad and saw the race for the first time. Now this is the 50th year of Team Penske's racing operation. Roger, once an aspiring driver, offered a chance to test here at Indianapolis, but he had just become a Chevrolet dealer. And part of his deal with Chevrolet was he won't be a race driver anymore, so he turned it down. The next driver in line to get that audition was Mario Andretti. I'd say it worked out well for the both of them. Hinchcliffe and Dixon being overtaken by Takuma Sato for A.J. Foyt Racing, who's now up to 5th place in that red, white, and blue 14 car. Remember Sato a few years ago racing Dario Franchitti for the win, made a bold attempt to pass him in turn 1 and ended up crashing. But we all remember that his attitude that day was win or nothing.
Right. So I'm sure if that happens again this year, he'll be a little bit less altruistic. Scott, what do you think if he finds himself there again?
Well,
here come the leaders for some pit stops. Castroneves is in, Kanon's in, Newgarden's in. Rick?
Helio Castroneves brings the car down. He was saying that you really can't plan this race, but you can put yourself in a position to win this race, and that's exactly what he's been able to do right now. They were having a discussion about whether to put in front wing or not. They've decided not to do that, and they're going to go ahead and send him out. And I understand we got a yellow on the track.
There is a tire loose from a car, it looks like from Buddy Lazier's car. And so the caution flag comes out while those leaders were already on pit road. There's Lazier.
This is a family-run team from his father, Bob, and Buddy Lazier, previous Indy 500 winner. Now the car just had service, and so the car just came off of pit road, so we're going to assume that the wheel nut was not tight. And Buddy's having difficulty keeping control of the car right there. Probably has decided to run across the grass because if he's running on the road itself, and the concrete's going to wear the bottom of the car out. So smartly just stops, and he'll end up having that car towed in. Now, if you're going to watch here very quickly, we'll see the 4 car, which is coming off of the pit lane. And as we roll through here, you'll see the car start to give a bit of a squiggle. He's controlling it. The sparks are coming out the back because the bottom of the car is dragging on the ground now.
And you see that wheel nut from the car was bouncing away from it as the wheel went the other way.
Now, as other drivers are coming around there, they'll be alerted that there's a loose wheel on the track by the spotters up on the top, so it looks like his day is probably going to be finished.
It is becoming increasingly more difficult every year for a team to just prepare a car for the Indianapolis 500. It just takes too many moving parts and too many experts in every bit to be able to do it successfully and safely.
Yeah, and this is a owner-operator-driver type program, and you were probably one of the last ones to do it. I know we have Ed Carpenter in it now, but you know, you understand from doing it yourself, being a owner-driver.
Very difficult.
So Lazier out of the car. The timing of the caution flag, very interesting. It's going to help some people and it's going to hurt some others. There's a line at the beginning of pit road that if you are across when the caution comes out, you're good. Your pit stop is legal. If you're not, the pits are closed when the yellow comes out, and you have to drive through the pits or stay on the racetrack, let the pace car gather up the field and go around. There are allowances for people to come in and take fuel. It's called necessary service, but no more, and then go back out and continue under the caution. You saw a couple of people like Pagenaud headed to pit road there. So Carlos Munoz, Takuma Sato, Scott Dixon, Graham Rahal had not made their pit stop yet before the yellow came out. Helio Castroneves, Tony Kanaan, Joseph Newgarden, James Hinchcliffe had. And so when everybody else peels off to come to pit road here, they're going to move up behind the pace car and be the first 4 in the race.
You know, for Helio, this whole day is coming together because you think about it. When we said we spoke to him in the garage area, not convinced he had the speed of the car. I really do think that the track has come to him today with the temperature starting to rise. It's hotter than it's been here probably all month. And so now with 120-degree track temperature, it looks like that is suiting his car.
Talking about the pit closed and the pit open and that kind of thing and the timing of that. Remember, it was A.J. Foyt, Rick Mears, and Al Unser that said earlier how much luck plays into winning this 500-mile race.
In this case, very much.
So here, more people making their way to the pit road. Graham Rahal. While the pit road is closed, remember I said a minute ago, you're allowed to come in and take necessary service, so they won't change the tires. They'll take a splash of fuel, enough to get him back around to the pit lane when it's opened up.
With our race.
So the end result is that you're going to end up being at the back of the grid, but the better part about it is you're not running out of fuel, obviously, on the race circuit. Some days, as you're mentioning, you're lucky. Some days you're not. You can see the disappointment there with the team.
That really hurt them.
But I'll disagree, and Jan, you might have more conversation on this with Graham's statement that there goes our race, because that caution and some of the other things that have happened have kind of thinned the herd of cars left on the lead lap.
Yes, but when he's saying that's our race, it's because they lost their track position. So interestingly, that'll be the case for those who have yet to pit, like Scott Dixon. Normally, if you're on the track and you catch a yellow, you're like, hey, it's my day. But so many people were on pit road when the yellow came out. They were the ones that all got the advantage. So anyone who pits now, this is a secondary stop for Pagenaud because he needed fuel earlier. I heard him coast by me dead stick. So he's already taken that necessary service. This will be one where they can actually change the tires and make adjustments for Pagenaud.
And perhaps out of fuel is the rookie Spencer Pigot, driving for the Rahal team and coasting around on the safety apron of the racetrack. Jan?
And this is the situation we were describing for Scott Dixon, Takuma Sato, and Carlos Munoz. These will be fast stops, and they'll do everything they can, but they're going to drop to the back of the field. Like Graham Rahal, they're going to lose their track position. Rick?
With Takuma Sato, they've been telling him all this lap, do what you can to save fuel, and now they're putting the fuel back in. They've made mega changes, and he's now happy. Doc?
Holding Carlos Munoz to get it full of fuel. Here he goes, and Townsend Bell stopped on the brakes to let Munoz out so he wouldn't have to be behind another car. No changes on the 26 car whatsoever.
Heads up by Sato there to keep from getting pinched into that pit wall.
This has added a lot of pressure to the whole situation right now.
I think we've seen this pit road incident, guys, because racing is becoming so close now. Guys don't want to lose spots in the pit, so it's becoming confrontational also in the pit lane, just like on the track.
Carlos Munoz leaving his pit. Townsend Bell trying to get to his. Takuma Sato trying to get out. Pit road's been a busy place today. Names you know because they've won the Indianapolis 500. Graham Rahal says what his father Bobby's win there in 1986 did for them. Opened up a whole avenue that they've turned into business opportunities. Someone's going to get an opportunity to celebrate the 100th Indianapolis 500-mile victory coming up shortly. We have just 44 laps to go. Pit road's been a really tricky spot today for a lot of teams.
You know, I think really what's happening here, because the competition is so close on the track, nobody wants to lose any space in the pits, obviously. So I think some of the responsibility has to go on to the pit box themselves, the team manager that's allowing the cars to leave the pit box after service. They need to let the cars leave as long as there is a clear space for the car to go into. And we've seen many times today that has not been the case. Here in Buddy Lazier's situation, he lost a wheel. Here's some more of the pit lane incidents that we're having. Takuma Sato, as you were mentioning before, Eddie, was very smart because he bailed out of it. He really didn't have a shot to get by, but he saw what was happening. He took his foot off the gas. It didn't collide.
So Helio Castroneves leads. Tony Kanaan is second.
Well, I have to say, man, I'm enjoying it a lot. Obviously, I need to close this deal for you, but so far, I think we showed everybody what we came here about to do.
Thoughts of the 2013 winner?
You know, for Tony Kanaan, when I spoke to him the other day, he is now 41 years of age, and I mentioned that he didn't know how long he was going to be involved in IndyCar racing because he's at the end of twilight of his series, if you will. But I will also tell you that he said that my dad passed away when he was 41 years old. So he said, I'd like to win it here today for my dad.
1 lap to go in the race next week. IndyCar racing here on ABC, the Verizon IndyCar Series duel in Detroit. 2 races, one on Saturday, one on Sunday on the Belle Isle Road Course. 3:30 Eastern both days here on ABC. So the caution coming out in the middle of the green flag pit stops. The people that made it and were good, if you will, Castroneves, Kanaan, Newgarden, and Hinchcliffe. Other people that had to pit while the pit road was closed and therefore cycled around and start at the back of the pack include Max Chilton, Graham Rahal, Simon Pagenaud, Townsend Bell, Brian Clausen. They go to the end of the line. Everybody else will cycle in between them, who was able to wait until the pit road was open, like Takuma Sato and Carlos Munoz and Scott Dixon.
So all of that really gives a big advantage to Castroneves, Kanaan, and Newgarden. And if Hinchcliffe has got a good car underneath him, you have to put him in that list.
Rahal back to 17th for this restart. 42 laps to go. Just a little over 100 miles left in the Indianapolis 500.
First three cars, Chevy, Honda.
Hinchcliffe into the mix at the front. Goes to second place.
This is what normally happens the last 5 laps. We still have quite a ways to go.
Castroneves on the outside of 3. Side by side with Newgarden. And the momentum he gave up by lifting has J.R. Hildebrand in that white number 6 to his inside.
Castroneves has a piece in the back of his car that's coming off.
The wheel guard on the left rear wheel.
Oh, that's
Two things with this. Will this disturb the car so much that he will end up having the back end step out from him? Will he hold on to it? But the other drivers are seeing it, and they're now going to go on the underside. But what Elio wants that piece to do is to fall off, isn't it, Eddie? So he'll end up getting a yellow.
That's a really dangerous thing to have hanging off like that.
Oh, I'm sure that the IndyCar officials will see that. He will probably see a black flag.
Oh, trouble into the wall, top of the screen. Yellow flag will save Castroneves, and it's Sato who's into the wall.
Buddy, be careful. Back it down, back it down. You know you're steering, back it down.
Takuma Sato, who had driven his way from 12th starting spot, fell back up into the mix late in the race, got caught in that last caution shuffle around, and now you see the right front tire on that A.J. Foyt racing car is severely disturbed. So what happened to Castroneves? Was there some contact when he was racing there for that spot that disturbed that left rear wheel guard? And what happened to Sato that caused that damage to his car and brought out the yellow flag?
Sato, who we're riding on board with right now, following behind his teammate.
Inside.
Eddie, I'm wondering if just he got too much dirty air from the car in front and couldn't get the grip, and the car just walked itself up the road, because it didn't look like he tried to correct with any steering before he hit the wall. He didn't get off the gas. I think the car just got light on him and went across the road as we watch his team owner, A.J. Foyt, sitting there.
And there probably were some marbles up there.
So Sato with his damaged car heading to the pit lane, Now Castroneves with that wheel guard. That's something they'll be able to replace. That whole rear wing apparatus will come off and another one will get put on, but he's going to give up all of his track position.
And right now this race is becoming, as it has been the last 5 years, all about track position.
Well, track position, I think that you're going to probably see just about everybody bail into the pit lane here for service underneath this yellow. So if Castroneves is lucky, everybody does that, he will not lose too much track position.
And there's a strong possibility there will be another pit stop, another yellow.
Everybody in here with what will be 36 laps to go in the race. Everyone except J.R. Hildebrand, who stays out. Rick?
Helio Castroneves, what a frustrating moment. He was very competitive. They're going to go ahead and run this like a routine stop. They'll put Sunoco fuel in, do as much as they can, but you can see in the back they've got to pull that rear wing section off. And even though it's designed to come off quickly and easily, it didn't come off quite as quickly as they wanted. The problem they've been having is on restarts, they just feel they've been getting gobbled up by the Hondas. As a result, they were hoping in that last restart that having 3 Chevys up front would keep the Hondas at bay. But as a result, he ends up getting back into traffic where he doesn't want to be, and possibly a contact that caused that.
Nice thing for this with everybody else coming in is he stays on the lead lap.
Now, with 36 laps to go, Sunoco fuel and the mileage each teams get to the finish becomes an interesting factor in this 500 where we did not get another yellow. So what happened to Castro Neves? Contact there? Yeah,
Yep.
That was Hildebrand.
Yep.
So contact with J.R. Hildebrand knocks that left rear wheel guard loose. Castroneves gives up his track position. Hildebrand doesn't pit under this yellow. He leads the Indianapolis 500. We are down to the business end of the 100th Indianapolis 500-mile race, coming to a restart with 33 laps to go. Fuel in question, different strategies being played. Several of the dominant cars in this race caught up in various incidents and shuffled back into traffic. J.R. Hildebrand leads. Green flag is waving. Ryan Hunter-Reay trying to get one of his 2 laps lost back from the race leader. Townsend Bell trying to get back on the lead lap. That's for the lead. Tony Kanaan around J.R. Hildebrand, 3 wide behind him. Dixon had to check up. Does it cost him some spots? Here comes Munoz to his inside down the front stretch. Kanaan trying to put Ryan Hunter-Reay back 2 laps down as second place changes. Joseph Newgarden around J.R. Hildebrand. Newgarden in the dark blue car, now in second. Hildebrand in the white car in third. James Hinchcliffe is fourth. And Alex Tagliani runs fifth. There's Hinch now picking up a spot on Hildebrand.
Now Hinchcliffe has got to start picking people off one by one if he has to get in that first group of 3.
It's always seemed like every time he goes out after a restart, it seems like he has an opportunity. After about 5 or 8 laps, his car starts to come in.
So Hinchcliffe's team talking about how many laps left in the race just before the restart and where they were on fuel to the finish.
Like I said, fuel is going to be important here. We're about 5 laps short of the window. So we'll save under yellow like you run hard under green and hope for another yellow.
Run hard as you can.
To try and pick those spots off, catch up to Kanaan. But they're going to need another yellow to make it to the finish, and there lies the rub, huh, Doc?
That's exactly it, Alan. And James Hinchcliffe loved hearing the fact when he said run hard under green. It's exactly what he's doing. The car had lost some grip, and they made a left side air pressure change. But it's not about air and grip now. It's about fuel. And right now, he wants to run hard and hope for a yellow. Jan.
And that situation is for many of the runners. You heard Hinchcliffe say on the radio, heard the team say 5 laps short. Some teams are 3 laps short, meaning you get 2 laps of caution, buys you 1 of green. Therefore, you're going to need 6 laps to 10 laps of yellow for these people to make it to the end. The way that Tony Kanaan is driving right now, you can see he's not going to worry about it. He's banking on the fact that he will have to stop again. We know for sure the 2 people who have to stop again were those who didn't stop, which is Hildebrand and Tagliani.
Now, one who came in after the round of pit stops and is all the way back at the field because of it. Just before the restart, Simon Pagenaud came down pit road and topped off his fuel. Let's assume because he's that far back from the leader, he's also maybe running in a little economy mode. So maybe the Penske team, Kyle Moyer and company, trying to work a little magic and find a way to come away with the trophy if we don't see another yellow flag.
If we don't see another flag, I think there's going to be a big surprise. I really do. With about a lap to a lap and a half before the end.
What about it, Rick?
Well, the concern with Pagenaud's car is he's had an intermittent misfire all day. It comes and goes. Obviously, when it's not there, he's running strong. The problem is every now and then it picks up. They're hoping that it's gone away for the rest of the race. But even the other teams are starting to talk about, don't worry about Pagenaud, he's got an engine issue.
No, that's most definitely a misfire. Up high.
Just a little small misfire in that, but that can take 3 or 4 miles an hour off your speed easily.
So Pagenaud, while being well behind the leaders, again, maybe can somehow work that to his advantage if the caution doesn't fall. It's going to be really interesting.
You know what is going to be interesting here on this last stop is for people to make the decision, are they going to take wing out of the car to make the car faster as the pack starts to thin out, as we start to see now just 2 or 3 guys running together, and maybe take the chance of losing some places on the track, or do you leave the aero in the car so it's got more grip and hope that you have the right balance to be able to be at the front at the end?
Look how far back Elio is.
Castroneva's way back in line after having to make that change of rear wing. He's in 14th place now, 8.4 seconds behind the race leader. He's led 4 times today for 24 laps, but he's well out of contention at the moment.
27 car ahead of him. Marco Andretti was taking a low line just to sort of take away the line that Castroneves wanted, and it gave him some dirty air, so you see him following back.
So Tony Kanaan right there, second car in line, is the leader. 25 laps to go in the Indianapolis 500. The tradition started by Louis Meyer way back in the 1930s will be continued after the checkered flag. The winners, Swig and Milk in Victory Lane. 50 miles to go in the Indianapolis 500-mile race. Our telecast today presented by Firestone. Spot on the Borg Warner Trophy is just that short 50 miles away here at the Speedway. A look from Will Power's car now. As we remind you to download INDYCAR Mobile to access exclusive live in-car cameras, hear driver and pit crew chatter and more only on Verizon. Will back in 19th place. Remember, had a pit penalty earlier in the race that set him back, and he hasn't been able to recover. So will we get a caution late? Well, within the last 10 laps in 7 of the last 10, but 5 of those races finished under caution. So you got to be in the lead to be sure, as the lead changes again here between Kanaan and Newgarden.
These 2 guys definitely need a caution.
I really thought Newgarden decided it was time to go when he went past Tony Kanaan there just a moment ago, but Tony says, I don't think I'm going to have any of that, and he's wheeled them back in. Both these guys want to be in the lead when the next pit stops come around so they can get in the pit lane and hopefully get their service done in record time and then come out ahead.
So you think they're just going for broke right now?
Well, depending on what they're doing on fuel, but their speeds right now also seem to be running pretty good, Eddie. I mean, they're up around the last 221 miles an hour when their fastest speed's been about 222, 223 for Joseph Newgarden, so they're not far off the mark.
Carlos Munoz around James Hinchcliffe to pick up 4th position. Munoz the runner-up a few years ago. Hildebrand continuing to hang in and now closing back in on Kanaan in 3rd position. He had dropped back a little bit, but as this run has gone on, Hildebrand showing a little bit more strength. Again, though, he's out of sequence with the other leaders. He last pitted at 149, while Kanaan and Newgarden pitted at 164.
He will be in pretty soon.
So what a contrast up front. Tony Kanaan, the veteran from Brazil, former Indy 500 winner, been around a long time, wildly popular driver. In his 15th Indianapolis 500, Newgarden from Nashville, just in his 5th 500, only 25 years old, has won just twice on the INDYCAR circuit, but both of those last year in his breakthrough season. And then there's Hildebrand as they go 3 wide with a couple of lap cars. And the leader clearly clearing them easily. Hildebrand only running the month of May for Ed Carpenter Racing after that heartbreaking loss when he led the Indy 500 in the last corner in his rookie season in 2011. Here he comes onto the pit lane now with 15 laps to go as Munoz goes through Kanaan.
No surprise there.
Munoz has been very methodically working his way forward.
Munoz clearing, looked like with some help, the team car of Townsend Bell quite easily into turn number 3. So Joseph Newgarden is the leader, coming to 14 laps to go, Doc.
And he had been told by engineer Brent Harvey that, hey, you're less than 2 laps short. Newgarden says, do I save it and stay out there? And Brent said, let's calculate. They came back to him and said, go ahead and go for it. Everyone around you will have to pit. If we come in and pit, we need less fuel than they do, but it's better to lead on that final stop than not. So they are going to try to lead, but they need less fuel than anybody. Joseph Newgarden has a shot to win the Indy 500.
So you see Hildebrand comes out just in front of Newgarden.
Watch for him to move over, being a team car.
I know we're focused on Newgarden right now, but Munoz is the fastest car on the track.
He is, closing quickly.
I think he'll get by Hildebrand at the end of the back straight. No, it's a bit too far back this time.
Carlos Munoz, the 24-year-old from Bogota, Colombia, made a splash here in Indianapolis in his rookie season when he qualified in the middle of the front row and nearly won the race. Race for the win in the final laps before settling for second place.
Had that race gone on maybe another 400 yards, he would have won. I think Karam would have finished second. He's not afraid of putting his car anywhere on the circuit.
And I don't think it's going to be somebody that's going to take his foot off the gas, as we see now the 6 of J.R. Hildebrand going around his teammate. Remember, just came out of the pit lane, so fresh tires certainly could probably go off there and lead. And is he going to lead and maybe break a little bit of the air for Joseph Newgarden to save a little bit of fuel? That might help, being a teammate car. But the 26 of Munoz now is starting to get a little bit close. I asked Carlos the other day, I said, how is it now that you've had a couple of seasons underneath your belt? He said, this is the first time I've come to Indianapolis, and I think I know what my car needs. I know how to relate it to my engineer. And he said, I know how to be patient and set the car up for the end of the race. And that's exactly what it seems like he has done.
Newgarden wants to put a car between him and Munoz.
Munoz will follow him through.
Probably not what Joseph wanted, I would think.
That one didn't work out the way he thought it would. They're both really strong at this crucial part of the race, and there's only 11 laps to go.
Tony Kanaan is just 9/10 of a second back, though separated by a lap car from those front 3. Actually, by 1 lap car from the front 3. That's Townsend Bell between the white car of Hildebrand. I'll check that. Hildebrand's up there, but he's also on the tail end, right? Yeah, so he just made his pit stop.
And guess who's in the lead?
Carlos Munoz goes to the front with 10 laps to go.
And really no surprise, guys, because he's an Andretti car. And Andretti, you think about from a year ago how they really struggled in this race, but came here with a new Honda package, and they have been so strong ever since they unloaded off the trailer.
A lot of lead changes late in the race in recent years. We talked about this being the most competitive time in the history of the 500 this last decade. I don't think we've seen the last lead change yet. Question is, will there be more than one before the checkered flag? How many will there be?
He's opening up the air for everybody behind him, so they'll be right back on him probably in a lap and a half. It's very difficult to lead Alan around here.
As you guys were mentioning before, they've all pitted on the same lap of Carlos Munoz and Newgarden and Kanaan. Hinchcliffe, who's a bit further back, so everybody's in the same boat right now.
Closer we get to the end, the closer you'll see cars taking different lines.
Kanaan's pit crew has just put tires out. Tony Kanaan's pit crew has put tires out in front of us on the pit lane. So look for the 3rd place driver to dive in here. Here he comes.
9 laps to go.
Scott Dixon also pitting. Matty Brabham was the other car leading into the pit lane there.
Under 77, guys.
Jan?
And even though they put out tires for Tony Kanaan, look for those who stop now with only 8 laps to go. They may not take the tires because all they need is fuel, but they're going to go for Tony Kanaan with tires. He won't need a whole lot of fuel, so this is a strategy call. I think there'll be others who might try a splash without taking tires.
Karam had a little bit of trouble getting going, it looked like there, out of his pit box.
You know, always, when you know there's a car coming that you would like to beat out of the pit lane, you're a little anxious and lit up those rear tires and just didn't get enough traction by the looks of it.
So Newgarden leading Munoz, now Munoz by Newgarden. 7 laps to go.
So it looks like you managed to keep the lead for a lap and a half.
There's the gap from Karam back to the race leaders.
And what Kanon's trying to do is he's trying to run some great laps right now. He'll try and get past Matty Brabhams, who's going a little slower than him. But Karam wants to just put some laps down, so when the other guys come in pit lane, he hopes that he's made enough time up that he comes out and he's contention with them for the victory.
So with the shuffling of all that's happened in the last 100 miles of this race, Hinchcliffe is third, 3 seconds behind the leaders. Oriol Servia is up to fourth. Alexander Rossi is fifth. Now Rossi passing Servia as Oriol pits. Will these two run out of gas? Will they come to pit road? If so, when and how will it shake out? Everyone here at Indianapolis on this front stretch side standing up as the pit stops begin to unfold in the pit side grandstands.
Newgarden in the pits.
Simon Pagenaud ahead of him. 5 laps to go. Hinchcliffe also pitting this lap. Doc?
Here's Joseph Newgarden. They said it's going to be a splash of fuel. He was only like 2 laps short. And rolling in front of him, James Hinchcliffe. 5 seconds of fuel for Newgarden. Hinchcliffe likewise just getting a top off, and he is away for the final laps at Indy.
Car here, buddy.
And here comes Munoz. Doc?
And the final stop, this could be the critical stop that determines who wins or loses this race. 24-year-old Carlos Munoz, a huge Juan Pablo Montoya fan, said, I want to do what Juan did in 2000. 4 seconds of fuel, he is away.
Watching Tony Kanaan. So now Alexander Rossi will become the new leader of this race with Helio Castroneves in second. There's Rossi in the 98. Graham Rahal is a lap down to him. Rahal in the red car right behind him.
And we have 3 laps to go.
So the question is, was he gentle enough on the fuel mileage to be able to make it to the end?
He last pitted at 164, 36 to go.
Much like the other guys did at lap 164, they came in. Was he far enough back and, like I said, soft enough on the gas pedal to maybe not have to come in for the splash of fuel? He looks like he's starting to run just a slower pace, guys. 2:14 that last lap. Tony Kanaan was about 2:21.
2 laps to go. Can a rookie win the 500 on an economy run?
What a story that would be.
Letting everybody go. He had a half a lap lead on Carlos Munoz, who came off the pit lane ahead of those who were the leaders. He's coming to the white flag. 1 more lap to go.
No, it's half a lap lead, clutch and coast, save fuel, clutch and coast.
Boy, I'm just thinking about Robbie Gordon running out of gas back in 1999.
There's Munoz in the blue and black car. He and Newgarden are going to race for second at the moment unless Rossi runs out of fuel. He's off of turn 2. He's half a lap to go.
Full throttle, full throttle, full throttle, full throttle.
Message is you're now going too slow.
Got this, bring it home. He's down to 2. Hey, push, push.
He's done it.
Checkered flag is in the air. A first-timer is going to win the 100th Indianapolis 500-mile race. California's Alexander Rossi to the checkered flag, and he's done it.
Checkered flag. You just won the Indy 500, baby. Oh, my God. Awesome job. Oh, my God. Oh my God, you guys. Awesome job, buddy. Great job, everybody. I'm out of fuel, guys. You did. Alex, you are the champ. 100, baby.
Former driver Brian Herta merged his team into Andretti Autosport this offseason. They hired Alexander Rossi to drive. They just engineered the strategy that has won them the Indianapolis 500.
Brian Herta, you won with Dan Weldon this way a few years ago. Now you've come back with Alexander Rossi. You've taken a rookie to the win here at the Indy 500. How did you do it?
You know what? Everything has to go right here. You know, I want to thank DW and the time we had here in 2011. This is unbelievable. I want to thank all sponsors, Napa Auto Parts, Castro, everybody that came on board. But man, it was so close at the end. And for a rookie to drive with the poise he did in such a tough situation. I mean, I was telling him, don't let anybody pass you, but save fuel, and he did it. And we won again. I'll attribute to Alex, Michael Andretti, the whole team. I mean, we worked so well together this month, and I was hoping one of us would win, and I was hoping to be us. And hey, man, it did.
You're on your way to victory circle, Jan.
And of course, that car is co-owned by Michael Andretti, and I know it wasn't a great day for Marco, but how exciting to bring Brian Herta in, former driver of yours, and now to win the Indy 500, the 100th running.
Unbelievable, unbelievable. I'm proud of Brian. They did a great job with their strategy, obviously, and it paid off. But to get a 1-2 finish in the 100th running of the Indy 500, pretty good.
Congratulations. The Andretti luck turned around this time.
It did, thank you. It was great. I'm just so happy for everybody on the team. I'm so happy. We brought these guys on board. We brought UFD is back, and so we are just so happy. Napa's the name I was trying to think about.
That's because he's vibrating.
I'm so happy, yeah, so it's so awesome.
Congratulations. Awesome job. They're just obviously thrilled down here, Alan.
I would say so. So 36 laps on fuel, which is an extraordinary number here at Indianapolis. He has no more to get back to victory lane without assistance. But Alexander Rossi, climbing out of his car and waving at the fans up there in turn 4, is certainly worthy of a Firestone moment of the race, as he'll be towed in to victory lane.
What an extraordinary victory. Incredible. I'm speechless.
And this is really no fluke, because you think about it, he was almost in the Fast 9 in qualifying. So for a guy that's just coming to Indianapolis, he did a tremendous job. Carlos Munoz, obviously very upset for finishing second. I've lived that, I understand that.
So Rossi, who left the United States to go to Europe as a child to pursue a career in Formula One, came back to race in the IndyCar Series this year, and on his first try, he wins the Indianapolis 500, our Firestone moment of the race, as he made the fuel last just enough to stay out in front and get across the finish line. You talked about there was going to be a twist of plot if the race played out that way. There's your twist of plot right there.
I never for a moment thought they would be winning the race. Tremendous. I'm so happy for Herta. Don't forget Dan Weldon. That was a very similar last moment win for them also. That is really incredible. And how fitting to have that happen on the 100th Indianapolis 500. An American back in the winner's circle.
Finally moving into victory lane. And here he is, ladies and gentlemen. The protocol has begun. Few celebrations in sports are as steeped in tradition as this one. That is his dad, Peter, leaning over to talk to his son. Ladies and gentlemen, the winner of the 100th running of the Indianapolis 500, Alexander Rossi. There is the Borg Warner victory wreath around his neck that Jim Rathman wore back in 1960. Then the celebration of the milk. The kiss from the Indy 500 princess. Alexander, you have won the Indianapolis 500. How would you describe this moment?
We did it. We did it. I have no idea how we pulled that off. That was, we struggled a little bit in the pit stops, but Brian came up with an unbelievable strategy. The Napa Auto Parts curb Honda was fast from the beginning. You know, Castro did a great job in helping us all year get here, and I just can't believe that we've done this.
Take us back to those final 3 laps, and you know you're close on fuel, you're saving fuel. Did you have any idea you would make it? What are you thinking?
I didn't know. I mean, Brian was unbelievable in helping me get to the finish. He was giving me a tow at the end, and it's an amazing result for Andretti Autosport. And you know, I'm just so thankful to do this on the 100th running, and I have to thank Verizon for giving the fans such great access to this event and making this the best Indy 500 ever.
You told me a year ago you were sitting in Monaco. You were trying to find a place to watch the Indy 500, dreaming that someday you would be here. How did this happen? How did you get here, and how did you win this race?
It starts off with Andretti Autosport giving me the opportunity to come here, and you know they've been strong all month. All 5 cars have been strong, and you know I'm driving for the best team in IndyCar right now, and this is unbelievable. This is for all of them.
They say this day, this race will change your life forever. When you reflect back on what you've accomplished, what do you think you'll cherish most about winning the first Indy 500 here in the 100th year?
I'll cherish the fact that at one point we were 33rd and we rolled the dice and we came through and we made it happen. And this is just, it's phenomenal. And I had no idea I'd be in IndyCar. I had no idea I'd be in the Indy 500. And now I'm here and we won. And I'm at a loss for words. It will change my life for sure.
Hey, well done. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
A young man from Nevada City, California, 24-year-old Alexander Rossi has won